Hey friends! So today we're going to discuss the Dungeons & Dragons 5e cantrip, True Strike. Now over the past few weeks I've seen a whole lot of hate directed at this particular cantrip, and most of it stems from the new video game Baldur's Gate 3. I've used this cantrip in the past in the tabletop version of Dungeons & Dragons and found it somewhat useful. Certainly not the most useful of spells, but it is just a cantrip. Curious to see what other people's thoughts are about using this in a 5e tabletop setting, but I think there are times and places to use it, and I'm going to discuss some of those here in a moment. So for those of you that don't know, I'm going to give a brief overview of True Strike. It's a pretty simple spell, level 0 wizard cantrip, where it can be particularly useful is in the rogue class as an arcane trickster. So what a lot of people don't like about it is it does take an action to cast. The range is 30 feet. And the description reads, you point a finger at a target in range. Your magic grants you a brief insight into the target's defenses. On your next turn, you gain advantage on your first attack roll against the target, provided the spell hasn't ended. So it does require concentration, but it does not require a verbal component. It is something just you can point. It's a hand gesture component to cast the spell. Bearing that in mind, this spell certainly could be more useful in certain circumstances if it was a little bit different. For example, if you could cast True Strike on a target and the effect would apply to party members attacking. It is only for you, so that is one common misconception about this spell that does make it less useful. However, again, this being a cantrip and not requiring any spell slots, one thing that you can do with a rogue class is use it before attacking. So you cast a spell, you initiate your attack, you have advantage. And then with a rogue as well, at higher levels, you gain the additional damage. So a few situations or build where True Strike can be particularly useful are with a rogue, when you don't have another source for sneak attack. You can actually use this to gain advantage and gain that damage bonus, which it scales with your level. Another example some of you might have seen earlier this year in our March PvP tournament, used by actually the winner of the tournament, the fighter, multi-classed, I believe, with a warlock, but used the cantrip True Strike along with Great Weapons Master in a single combat to get that additional 10 damage right out of the gate. You could also do this with Sharpshooter, and this is kind of what I was mentioning before with a rogue. If you're coming up to a target or firing at ranged targets, so they're kind of approaching you, you've got the time to cast the action and next turn fire to gain that additional 10 damage. Another example I've seen for sorcerers with the Quicken Spell is they're able to use that to cast True Strike as a bonus action. And the final example is anytime there's an attack that you really want to make sure you hit, maybe to conserve a resource, like with arrows of slaying, or other items that you want to make full use of, so you want to make sure you hit, that's a perfect time to use True Strike. So these are just some examples that I came up with. Would love to hear any thoughts or additional examples that other people have out there when you've used True Strike. I primarily play as a rogue, so with an arcane trickster, I've used True Strike on numerous occasions, especially if you're kind of off on your own. A lot of times I have a tendency to kind of scout ahead, and True Strike is a perfect opportunity to maybe take out an unsuspecting guard or something like that. Again, tell me what you think about True Strike. Is it a terrible cantrip? As some people have put it, the absolute worst spell in the game, which might be a little bit over dramatic or just somebody wishing that it did something that it doesn't. Or are there times where you find True Strike to be useful? Maybe share with some of the viewers some of your builds that you've used True Strike on and how successful they've been or have not been. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. We're going to do a lot more content this winter. Kind of been busy for the summer, but winter here in northern Utah, as things cool off, we'll be doing a lot more indoors gaming. Thank you so much for watching.